We walk through life speaking spells we don't even recognize. Words tumble from our mouths like leaves in the wind, light, unexamined, habitual. We say things like, "I'm such a mess," or "this is a disaster," or "everything's going wrong." And we think these words are harmless, that they disappear into the air the moment they're spoken. But they don't. They land somewhere. They settle in the corners of our mind. They echo in the rooms of our soul. Because every phrase, no matter how small or casual, carries a vibration, a frequency, a direction. And when that direction always points downward, over time, so do we. Imagine a stone, hard, solid, seemingly unbreakable. Now imagine water, soft, fluid, inconsequential in a single drop. But drop by drop, again and again, over days and months and years, water can wear down that stone. It can hollow it, reshape it, smooth it into something unrecognizable. That's what our words do. Every negative sentence we say, especially the ones we repeat, becomes a drop. And we become the stone. It's not dramatic, it's not immediate, but it's powerful, and it's dangerous. This isn't about pretending everything is okay when it isn't. It's not about fake positivity or becoming a walking motivational poster. It's about speaking consciously, with purpose, with truth that uplifts rather than drowns. There's a difference between saying, "This is hard," and saying, "This is hopeless." One invites growth, the other traps you. There's a gap between "I made a mistake" and "I'm worthless." One acknowledges the fall, the other steals the will to rise. These aren't just word games. They're the difference between clarity and collapse. And it's not just about what we say to ourselves. It's also about what we offer to others. You never know when your words might be the only voice someone hears that day. You never know when your sentence will become their echo. In the quiet moments, your voice might be the one they remember. And you have to ask yourself, what will it say? Will it build or will it break? The Stoics knew this. They lived by it. They weren't silent because they had nothing to say. They were silent because they understood that speech is sacred, that every word carries weight, that careless language is like littering in the mind, cluttered, distracting, toxic. They believed in speaking with purpose, in letting words become bridges rather than barriers. So they listened first, they observed, and then, only when it mattered, they spoke. It starts with observation, with awareness. Listen to yourself. Truly listen. What do you say out of habit? What scripts are you repeating that don't reflect who you are anymore? Maybe they once did. Maybe they came from old wounds, from teachers or parents or fears you never questioned. But if they no longer fit, why keep wearing them? Why let outdated stories narrate your present? The tone matters too. Say something out loud. "I can't do this." Now say, "This is hard, but I'll figure it out." Feel the difference? One closes the door, the other leaves a window open. These are small shifts, but over time, they carve out an entirely different life. And sometimes the wisest thing you can do is say nothing at all. If your words don't help, don't heal, don't clarify or uplift, why let them out? Silence isn't weakness, it's space. Space for intention, space for presence, space for truth. In silence, your real thoughts rise. In silence, you choose wisely. Make your words sacred. Let them carry light. When you speak, let it mean something. When you listen to yourself, let it bring you higher. Don't keep dragging around sentences that weigh you down. Let them go. Clean house. Speak with intention. And if there's nothing worth saying, then say nothing at all. Because your words are not small. They are not empty. They are not disposable. They are reflections of your inner world. And when you choose to use them with care, something changes. You start to see yourself differently. You start to treat yourself with more respect. And the world, in turn, begins to see that too. Still, there's another truth we all have to face. Sometimes the world won't understand you, no matter what you say. You open up, you speak from the heart, you try to share something fragile, and you're met with a shrug, a smirk, or silence. You share an idea that burns bright in you and they laugh. You explain a transformation you're undergoing and they dismiss it with a wave of their hand. It stings. It cuts deeper than most people will ever know. It feels like walking into a room naked with your soul, only to be told you're being too sensitive. You try to explain yourself. You reword, reframe, soften your voice. You try again and again. And still, it doesn't land. It never does. And one day you realize the truth. Not everyone is meant to understand you. Not everyone is ready. And the more you explain, the more energy you waste, like pouring water into a closed bottle, like planting seeds in a desert, like knocking at a door that will never open. It's not that you're wrong, it's just that they're not listening. And that's okay. That has to be okay. Because the moment you stop needing their understanding, you take your first real step toward peace. You stop chasing approval and start walking your own path. You stop explaining and start building. You stop shouting and start becoming. Epictetus said, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. It sounds harsh, but it's a gift. A reminder. If you're growing, you'll outgrow people. If you're changing, people will misinterpret you. And if you're becoming something real, some will call it strange. Let them. Don't waste your breath trying to make others catch up to a version of you they haven't even seen yet. Real growth doesn't scream, it whispers. It shows up in your choices, not your declarations. And when someone doesn't get it, you don't push harder. You pause. You protect your process. Because there's a danger in exposing something too soon. The soil of public opinion isn't always fertile. Some seeds are better planted in solitude. So let them call you quiet. Let them say you're distant. Let them wonder what you're doing. You're building, you're becoming, and that's not always visible. That doesn't always need to be said. Keep walking, keep breathing, keep rising. Let your silence be your sanctuary. Let your words, when spoken, carry the full weight of your intention. Because not everyone understands what you carry inside, but you do, and that truly is enough. There's a strange trick the mind plays when we speak too soon. You have an idea, maybe it's bold, maybe it scares you a little, maybe it lights a fire inside you, and you say it out loud. You tell a friend or post about it or share it over coffee with someone who barely looks up from their phone. And for a moment, you feel satisfied, heard, maybe even admired. Your mind rewards you with a rush of pleasure, a hit of dopamine, a gentle pat on the back that says, look at you, you're doing something. But here's the truth. You're not. You've only talked about it. You haven't taken a single step. And yet your brain thinks you have. That's the trap. Talking about doing something is not the same as doing it. But your brain doesn't always know the difference. And once you've gotten that reward, the attention, the nod, the applause, it's harder to push forward. It's like announcing you're going to climb a mountain and then setting up camp at the base because everyone already cheered. The climb, that's for later or maybe never. Derek Sivers said it perfectly. When you tell people your plans, you feel the satisfaction of progress without the reality of progress. And that comfort, that illusion, it slows you down. It makes you soft. Why keep going when the world already clapped for you just for trying? Now think about this. How many times have you told someone what you were going to do only to never follow through? How many brilliant ideas have died in the space between intention and action because you spent more energy talking than building? It's not because you're weak. It's not because you don't care. It's because the act of speaking gave you the reward your effort was supposed to earn. And when that happens enough times, you stop trusting yourself. You start believing your words more than your actions, and you become a version of yourself that lives in the future. Always saying, I'm going to, but never becoming. The Stoics lived differently. They didn't announce their greatness. They didn't brag about their virtues. They didn't perform their growth for others to admire. They just lived. Quietly, intentionally. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men in history, didn't run around Rome proclaiming his wisdom. He wrote to himself, in secret, in private, not to be admired but to stay grounded. Because he knew that real change isn't loud, it's consistent, it's silent, it's felt more than it's seen. And that's the heart of this lesson. Doing it is what transforms you. Not saying it, not dreaming it, not even writing it down on a list and calling it a goal. Action, repetition, discipline, quiet, unglamorous, unseen effort. That's where growth happens. So the next time you feel the urge to announce something, pause. Ask yourself, is this for me or for them? Is this expression or validation? Am I sharing because I've built something or because I'm afraid I won't unless someone's watching? You don't need to explain your every move. You don't need to post your progress. You don't need to narrate your life like a movie. Some of the most important things you'll ever do will happen in silence, in solitude, in the sacred space between your commitment and your results. There's strength in quiet action. There's dignity in not needing to be seen. When you train when no one's watching, when you heal without making an announcement, when you change your life in private, that's power. That's how you know you're doing it for real. And here's something even deeper. When you speak less and do more, you save your energy. You stop pouring it into explanations, justifications, debates. You conserve your fire, you protect your vision, because not everyone deserves access to your process. Some things need to mature before they're revealed, like seeds growing beneath the soil, like dreams still forming bones. Expose them too early and they can wither under the weight of other people's opinions. So practice silence, not as a way of hiding, but as a way of honoring the sacredness of your path. Keep your focus. Let your actions speak. Let the results speak. Let your transformation be so real, so undeniable, that one day, without ever saying a word, someone looks at you and says, "You've changed. You become something else, something stronger." And all you have to do is nod and smile because you know you lived it. This silence isn't emptiness, it's discipline, it's strategy. It's your inner compass becoming louder than the world's noise. The less you seek applause, the more you start hearing your own rhythm. And in that rhythm, there's truth, there's momentum, there's peace. Because here's the brutal truth the world won't tell you. If you depend on applause, you'll never get far. You'll go where the cheers are, not where your soul is calling. You'll chase reactions instead of purpose. And eventually, when the noise dies down, as it always does, you'll feel lost. You'll wonder why the thing you were building feels hollow. And it's because it was built for them, not for you. So let go of the need to be seen. Let go of the craving for approval. Let go of the habit of narrating every step. You're not here to perform. You're here to evolve, to rise, to heal. Even if no one's clapping, even if no one notices. Especially then. And if you're struggling with this, if silence feels lonely instead of powerful, remember, you're not alone. There are others walking this path too, quietly, patiently, growing in the dark, waiting for their moment, not to be seen, but to be true. And one day you'll find each other, not through announcements or hashtags or performances, but through presence, through energy, through a shared understanding that doesn't need to be spoken. So the next time you're tempted to post, to announce, to explain, breathe. Come back to yourself, ask, is this for me? And if it's not, choose silence, choose action, choose truth. Because when you do it for yourself, you don't need to say it. It shows. In your eyes, in your posture, in your peace. There's a reason nature is quiet when it grows. Trees don't announce their roots digging deeper. Flowers don't ask for praise when they bloom. And the ocean, even in its might, doesn't speak of its depth. It just is, unapologetic, powerful, whole. And maybe that's the lesson most of us forget because we're taught to speak, to prove, to perform. But the most transformative growth often happens in the dark, away from the noise, in places no one sees. Now, ask yourself this, how much of your energy goes into proving something that doesn't even need to be proven? How much do you explain, clarify, defend, just to be understood? And what does that really give you, other than exhaustion? Some people won't understand your silence. They'll think you're distant. They'll assume you're angry. They'll say you've changed. But that's not your burden to carry. Your silence doesn't mean you're hiding. It means you've stopped outsourcing your clarity. It means you're conserving your strength for the things that matter, the things that can't be seen, only lived. There's a saying, some battles are only won in silence. And it's true, not because you're afraid to speak, but because the noise itself is the enemy. When you share something too soon, before it's ready, before you're ready, you open it to interference, doubt, opinions, fear. You expose something fragile to winds it's not strong enough to withstand. And then you wonder why it falls apart. Have you ever made a decision that felt right? So deeply right that you could feel it in your bones, only to talk about it and suddenly feel unsure. It happens all the time. We hear one doubting voice, one questioning eyebrow, one offhand comment like, "Are you sure?" And our inner knowing begins to tremble. That's the danger of speaking too soon. That's why some truths should grow in silence. And it's not about secrecy, it's about sovereignty. You don't owe the world your process. You don't have to explain your evolution to people who haven't earned the right to witness it. Your journey isn't a group project, it's yours. Sacred, messy, personal. Marcus Aurelius, the Emperor of Rome, wrote page after page to himself, never meant to be read by others. Today, because they were rooted in truth, not performance. That's the paradox. What you create in silence often echoes the loudest through time. There's another truth here. When you need others to understand your every step, you stop walking. You start waiting. For approval, for applause, for someone to say, yes, you're doing it right. And in that waiting, your momentum dies. Your light dims, your clarity fades. So here's a different way to live. Let people misunderstand you. Let them wonder. Let them make up stories. Let them call you distant or cold or intense. And you just keep going. Not out of spite, not to prove a point, but because you no longer need the noise. You found your rhythm, your compass, your truth, and that's enough. Imagine this, you're walking away from something that no longer fits. A job, a relationship, a belief. You've carried it for years, but it's too heavy now. You're ready to let it go. And as you take those first steps, your heart feels lighter, freer. But then someone notices. They ask questions. They project their fear. Are you sure you're not making a mistake? What if you regret this? Why now? And just like that, you start shrinking. Not because you're wrong, but because their fear has now become your mirror. That's what happens when you share your change too early. You inherit the doubts of others. You absorb their limitations. You trade your clarity for their confusion. But silence is protection. It's the container where your growth can breathe, where your truth can stretch without explanation, where your strength can mature without interruption. It's where your change becomes real. So here's what you can do. When something matters deeply, keep it close. Not hidden, just sacred. Let it grow roots before you show the world its leaves. Water it in the dark, nurture it in solitude, and when it's strong, when you're strong, then let it bloom. Not for applause, but because it's ready. And in the meantime, get comfortable not explaining yourself. Not every decision needs justification. Not every step needs commentary. If you're living in alignment with your values, that's enough. That's everything. Seneca, another great Stoic, once said, "The reward of a good deed is having done it." Not recognition, not applause, just the quiet knowing that you honored your truth, that you followed your path even when no one was watching, especially then. So next time you're tempted to speak, pause, ask yourself, am I sharing this to express something real or to feel seen? And if it's the second, choose silence. Let your actions be the answer. Let your consistency tell the story. Because here's the secret. When you truly do it for yourself, you don't need to say a word. It shows in the way you move, in the way you carry yourself, in the peace you radiate. That kind of transformation doesn't need to be broadcast. It speaks for itself. And when people finally notice, when they say, "You've changed," all you'll have to do is smile, because they're seeing a reflection of the work you did when no one was watching. The battles you won in silence, the growth that bloomed in darkness, that's the path of the quiet warrior. The one who doesn't need noise to feel worthy. The one who builds in stillness. The one who walks away without needing to slam the door. The one who knows that real change is felt, not heard. So live your truth. Hold your vision. Stay your course. Even if no one claps, even if no one sees. Because you're not here to impress. You're here to become. There comes a moment, quiet and unannounced, when something inside you begins to shift. You stop looking for a spotlight and start seeking peace. You begin noticing how loud the world is, how much energy it takes to be seen, to be heard, to be understood. And you realize, maybe that isn't the kind of strength you want anymore. Because noise can look like movement, but most of the time, it's just a distraction from stillness. And the kind of stillness you crave now isn't about sitting still. It's about being unshakable. even when everything around you is chaos. We live in a time where we're expected to narrate every step, to explain every feeling, to justify every change, as if transformation isn't valid unless someone witnesses it. But the truth? Some of your most important changes will happen alone, unseen, unvalidated, and those are the ones that count. Not because they're dramatic, but because they're real, quiet, lasting. The noise of the world, it's endless. Notifications, opinions, debates, pressure to keep up, to respond, to engage, to react. And it's not just external. There's an inner noise too. Doubt, guilt, overthinking. That constant hum that makes it hard to hear your own truth. Have you felt it? That fatigue that isn't physical, but emotional. The exhaustion of having to keep explaining yourself. Of having to prove again and again that what you feel is valid. That your path is worthy. That your voice matters. That kind of exhaustion doesn't come from doing too much. It comes from being too open in the wrong spaces. Sometimes, the kindest thing you can do for yourself is to turn the volume down. Not mute the world entirely, but start filtering what you allow in and what you give out. Because you don't owe your process to anyone. You don't have to explain your steps just to feel like they're real. The more you speak to be validated, the further you drift from the quiet certainty that's already within you. There's a lesson here, one the Stoics lived by and that Zen quietly whispers through centuries. You don't need to explain your philosophy. You need to live it. That's where the difference is. That's where peace begins. Not in louder affirmations, but in quieter alignment. Let's be honest, many of us are addicted to narration. We talk about what we're going to do more than we actually do it. We announce changes before we've made them. We post about our struggles before we've healed from them. We seek applause for the seed instead of nurturing it into a tree. But silence, real silence, isn't about hiding. It's about trusting. Trusting yourself enough to know that you don't need an audience to be transformed. That you don't need noise to make your move. That your path, however different, however misunderstood, is still yours. And that's enough. Picture a monk walking down a mountain path at dawn. He carries a bucket of water, quietly, without fanfare. Every day, same steps. No announcements, no explanations, just presence, purpose, peace. One day, someone asks him why he never talks about his journey. He replies simply, "If I need to speak for it to be seen, then I don't know it well enough yet." And he continues walking. That story may be simple, but it carries a profound truth. If you need to talk about your transformation for it to feel real, then perhaps it's not yet rooted deeply within you. Let it sink in first. Let it become part of who you are, not something you wear like a costume. And here's the other part. When you live in silence for a while, when you stop explaining and just start being, you notice something remarkable. You begin to recharge, you find clarity. You recover the parts of yourself that got scattered. Instead, you lived in alignment so deeply, so fully, that even in silence, your life became your loudest statement. What if the proof of your change wasn't in your words, but in your presence? In the way you walk, in the way you show up, in the way you no longer chase what once drained you. That's the path. Not easy, but real. So breathe, get quiet, and start listening. Not to the world, but to yourself. There's something sacred growing in you. Don't rush to explain it. Don't expose it too soon. Just live it. Because when the time comes, you won't need to say a word. There's a difference between doing something because it feels right, deep in your bones, and doing something just so someone else can see it. That difference defines the strength of your foundation. Think back to the times you truly changed. Not the ones you talked about, but the ones you simply lived. No declarations, no explanations, just action. Silent, steady, real. Those are the moments that moved the needle. Those are the moments that shaped you. And that's the thing. When you do something for yourself, you don't need to broadcast it. You don't need applause, affirmation, or confirmation. You just know. It settles inside you like a truth that can't be shaken. You feel it in how you breathe, in how you walk, in the peace that lingers quietly beneath your ribs. It's easy to forget that in a world that rewards loudness, we're trained to perform, to share everything, to prove we're growing. But the Stoics saw right through that illusion. They knew that if a transformation was genuine, it wouldn't need advertising. It would speak for itself through presence, through energy, through how you carry yourself, even if no one claps. Seneca once said, "The reward for a good action is having done it." Not being praised for it, not being seen doing it, just doing it. Just you, with yourself. Knowing you kept your word. Knowing you showed up for something that mattered. That's the kind of change that roots itself so deeply, it doesn't get blown away by the first gust of doubt. Because here's the truth, when you share something too early, before it has roots, you make it vulnerable. You expose it to other people's fears, projections, and confusion. And even if they don't mean to, they might shake your certainty just by asking, "Are you sure?" And suddenly you aren't. Suddenly you start second-guessing what you were once so clear on. That's what happens when you trade your inner truth for outer approval. You don't owe anyone your process. You don't have to justify what you're doing just to feel like it's valid. The deepest parts of your evolution will always be solitary. Not lonely, solitary. Because growth isn't always meant to be witnessed. Sometimes it needs space, sometimes it needs stillness, sometimes it needs you to be the only one who knows what's happening. And that's not weakness, that's wisdom. We've all been there, tempted to share every goal, every breakthrough, every change, just to feel a little more sure of it. Just to get that tiny rush of being seen. But that rush is temporary, and if you depend on it, you'll always be chasing applause instead of pursuing alignment. There's a quieter kind of strength, one that doesn't need the world to watch. It doesn't need the spotlight. It doesn't even need to be understood. It just needs to be honored. That strength grows in silence, in consistency, in solitude, and it becomes unshakable because it was never built on someone else's approval to begin with. So what do you do with all this? You stop narrating your every step and start living it instead. You change for real, not for show. You give yourself permission to grow without documenting it. And if anyone asks why you're so quiet lately, why you're not posting or sharing as much, you smile. Because now you understand, you're doing it for you. You're building something that doesn't need to be decorated with words. You're strengthening a foundation that doesn't need to be explained. You're creating a life that feels right, even if no one else understands it. And you begin to trust that time will show what you don't need to say. That those who are meant to understand will understand, not because you told them, but because they see it in who you've become. Let your actions speak for you. Let your silence carry weight. Let your presence do the talking. If someone sees it, great. If no one sees it, even better. Because it means your energy hasn't been wasted on seeking recognition. It's been invested in realignment, in rebuilding, in rising. There's a kind of freedom that comes when you finally let go of the need to be understood. A kind of peace that settles in when you stop needing to be validated to feel secure in your path. And once you taste that freedom, you won't want to go back. The people who get it, the ones who live from the inside out, who walk quietly but deeply, they'll recognize it in you. You won't have to say a thing. You'll find each other not through words, but through energy, through presence, through the stillness you both carry. Until then, let your silence be your strength. Let your growth be private. Let your journey unfold without interruption. There comes a point in your journey where you stop asking for the world to see you and start seeing yourself instead. That moment, quiet and almost invisible, is when real change begins. It's when you understand that you were never meant to broadcast your every move, your every lesson, your every awakening. Some things are too sacred for the spotlight. Some transformations are too personal for public display. And when you grasp that, something inside you softens and strengthens at the same time. You realize you're not tired because of the work itself. You're tired because of the noise, the constant explaining, the need to be understood, the pressure to narrate your every emotion, your every choice, like a play-by-play for people who may not even be listening. It wears you.